Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is on now. Right now at Wayfair, you can get up to 70% off everything home. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.ca.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
And amid where the negotiations are now, do you still have trust in Prime Minister Carney?
Oh, yes, I do. I hope that we will get to an agreement. I think that he has respected our will, our demand, since the beginning of this negotiation. It was important for us, and he has respected that. So I look forward to working with him in the coming days, weeks, and probably years.
Wow. Christine Frechette, you heard the question about working with Mark Carney. I wonder when Paul St. Pierre Plamondon heard that, if his hair caught on fire. James Mennie is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, I asked rather cynically before when I started the show today, is Mark Carney knowingly or not helping Christine Frechette win the election?
No. Why don't you ask Eric Jane, who I believe today begged Mark Carney to take his nose out of the Quebec election. The fact that the clip we just heard is coming from a Quebec premier is astounding enough.
It is.
But the fact is, Aaron, these past 2.5 days have been the most dizzying in my experience in terms of the entire landscape changing, the entire Canadian landscape changing. Everything that's happening right now, whether it's at the federal or provincial and all provincial levels, is being seen through the prism of Donald Trump. Right now, I saw this, it was a beautiful turn of phrase, no matter what you want to say happened on the weekend with this negotiation, Canada is now on the ballot for the American midterms. It's not an abstraction, and Trump knows it. So we've got a situation where Mark Carney holds a press conference on Saturday, which and once again I think reasserts himself as perhaps one of the best political explainers this country has ever produced. And also, it's kind of funny because if you sat through the whole thing as I did, as I think perhaps hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Canadians did on Saturday, you heard him answer in great detail as to why these talks broke off. He listed off the reasons. And in doing so, he cut the legs out from under the Conservative opposition, at least, which has been calling for we want to get to the bottom of this. I tell you, Aaron, I'm amazed that in the past 48 hours, nobody on Pierre Poilievre's payroll has turned around and said, reveal the deal. But I'm sure that only time will tell. But the fact is, we have those answers. And indeed, a snap poll by Angus Reid, not only do 75% of Canadians support Carney's actions to walk away from those talks, more than 80% in Quebec, Aaron. Yeah. This is what's crazy. This election campaign just got turned on its head and then thrown off a cliff. And I can tell you for a fact, I mean, God help me, it says the sad commentary on my existence, Aaron. I was checking out all the social media this weekend on the Quebec election. The separatist trolls and the conservative trolls are giving themselves strokes, typing so fast, trying to find ways to create a situation where this is all smoke and mirrors. But the fact of the matter is, Mark Carney, as unbelievable as it seems, Mark Carney, who was already the most popular politician in Quebec, has become even more popular. And what's he doing today? After last week announcing a huge hydro deal with Christine Frechette, today he announces an $11 billion shipping contract in Quebec with Christine Frechette. I mean, talk about being struck by lightning twice. I'm going to love to see what the next full-blown Léger poll is going to say about where the CAQ is, and more specifically, where the PQ are, because I have a sneaking suspicion you're going to see a lot of sifting ground between now and the next poll. Will this momentum be continued during the debates? I'm pretty sure it will. And I have to tell you, further to your question, yes, I think, and you're talking to a guy who said they were going to be wiped off the map and believed it. I think the CAQ at this point is back in the game. They have no one to thank for it but Donald Trump. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Quebecers are willing to forget the last 8 years against what the next 4 may be in this crazily new world of politics that up until last Friday evening didn't even exist.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think you can't write the cat off anymore based on what's gone on, as you just said, over the past couple of weeks. I mean, if this had happened after the debates, they'd be a shoo-in. The question is, when the debates get heated and people are reminded of the past 8 years, will this be forgotten, right? So we'll have to wait and see. But
there's also, listen, everyone in this day and age, and I think everyone thinks in the here and now. And people, I've always said that people don't remember anything. I think that's a rule of not just politics, but 21st century existence. But right now, to hear the Prime Minister of Canada say one of the reasons why we walked away from this is because Quebec language and Quebec culture is non-negotiable, I want to see Paul St. Pierre Plamondon have fun with that. I want to see the Bloc Québécois, which has become quite subdued and indeed almost cooperative with the Liberals on this issue. It's very, very tough now to get out of the absolutely tiny political corner Carney has painted both these elements into. And indeed, there's all kinds of postmortems going on. What actually happened? Was Lutnick the last minute he went rogue and blew up the deal because he wasn't happy and he thought he was being sidelined? Clearly, and our colleague Tom Mulcair noticed this in a column that he posted on the weekend, and I was shocked as well. Trump's initial response to this was very pithy. I think it was no more than 3 sentences long. And it dealt with agriculture. It's almost as if he was utterly unprepared for this, and he probably found out more on Saturday morning than he did on Friday night. We have a longer version now, the usual saber rattling, January 1st, I'm going to do A, B, and C. And it's interesting to note that as far as I can tell, I was concerned the markets were just going to go crazy today. They're going to go on a Stuka-like dive. Quite the contrary. Yeah. They were a bit tentative this morning, and we closed a little bit up. The TSX was a little bit up. But the fact is, if the street is not seeing that much uncertainty, or at least is seeing someone who knows what they're doing, i.e. Carney, I think we are about to enter a very, very interesting time, not just in federal politics, not just in provincial politics, but indeed the entire dynamic between the U.S. and Canada.
You're right. It was pretty much a nothing burger in financial markets today, right on both sides of the border, which is interesting. I will say one other thing. What do you think, Jim, of my idea now for Paul St. Pierre Plamondon, who's watching all this go down? Maybe his next pledge should be not to hold a referendum until Mark Carney is no longer prime minister.
Exactly. I think that you're spot on. I know you're being flip, Aaron, but the fact is that would be one way for him to get out of this. But even now, I think the as they say in these parts, the jello has set. Carney is perceived as the guy who's going to protect Canada and Quebec against Donald Trump, and it's going to be very tough to chip away at that, and it's going to be very tough to try and undercut that without sounding like you're providing aid and comfort to the enemy. In this case, the Americans and in general, and Donald Trump in particular. And an interesting dynamic, as I say, and one that's still in the process of forming. But on the other hand, Aaron, you can see it's all drifting towards Carney's corner, and we're not that far away from voting day. It's just like a few weeks away, man. It's going to be very, very tough to try and negate all of this. And as I say, I am on tenterhooks to see the next survey by anyone, but certainly by Leger, but to see what voter preferences are for this coming Quebec election.
You pointed out something, and I brought up the same thing. The idea now, after having heard from all the, American sycophants, if you will, all the trade guys who are basically towing the same line and not knowing who to believe. I think I heard Jameson Greer say, we changed the rules at the end. Canada did, and the Prime Minister, of course, said exactly the opposite, right? Maybe we find out, maybe we don't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can accuse Mark Carney of holding back and not telling us what actually happened. But if you had to take someone's word here, you tend to go with his, not with the U.S.?
Well, obviously. I mean, listen, you don't have to be, you don't have to suffer what his sycophants call Trump derangement syndrome to know that this person, his administration, and his entourage are the most repeatedly proved liars, flat out liars on everything. So, and you know what? That's why I think, like you say, it was a nothing burger on the market because investors don't care. Investors just care about their bottom line, and they're looking at this. And I think finally they're seeing that Donald Trump may be bouncing off the walls of the Oval Office, But in the end, he may not be a factor anymore. And indeed, never mind, you and I are talking about the October election, November midterms coming up. Who knows what's going to happen after that? Who knows who actually is going to be calling the shots in the U.S. after that point?
The last thing I want to do, and I'm going to ask this question of our listeners with respect to, how they feel we did here, should we have done what we did? Scott Bessent, who is the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, I don't know if you heard this clip, taking a piece out of Canada, but it's worth playing again for people who haven't heard it. This is from just earlier today.
Does the United States and President Trump still want Canada to become a state? He did say that they're getting all the benefits of being a state without being one.
I think he would like Canada to come to the table and negotiate in good faith. They were offered quite a good deal last week. They chose to reject it. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Carney rose to power on an anti-American, anti-Trump platform. I believe he was more than 20 points behind, and he seems to have gone back to his old playbook. And I think one has to ask oneself: is he trying to benefit himself, the Liberal Party, or the Canadian people? Because they were offered a very good job. So,
wow, Jim.
Listen, you're looking at. But first of all, he didn't answer the question, by the way. So just so we're clear on that, he did the usual thing that,
yeah.
And indeed, it's interesting which happened first, the Trump bootlicker or the Poilievre conservatives, because that's the argument the conservatives are making. That in fact, implicit in their demands for a recall of Parliament is that, what you heard from Carney on Saturday, that was a lie. We want the truth. We don't want to fool around. We want to ask questions, and this is what this is about. But once again, you look at a lot of the U.S. trolls, a lot of the U.S.-based trolls in the past 2 days has also been, this was Carney just playing for him. He had a great deal and he got rid of it. Listen, as I say, given the evidence, given the record, and who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe, Punxsutawney Phil about when spring is going to come, or Donald Trump about anything?
We'll leave it at that. Jim, I thank you. I appreciate it.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.